Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grave Matters. I'm Creepy Clown Girl, and alongside of me is the Sleeping Wendigo.
Hello,
Sorry.
guys.
So,
Good evening.
thank you for being here. And our guest tonight is the amazingly talented Dark Scholar. Hey, Scholar.
Happy to be here. How is everyone?
Doing good.
Glad to.
And of course, this week behind the yellow lines is As the Raven Dreams. Yeah. So, Dark Scholar, for those that may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about your channel, your content, and how you got your name? And I do believe you have a second channel as well.
Absolutely. So, those of you who are familiar with me, I am the Dark Scholar. Those of you who are not, I like to specialize in original stories of a more mature nature. And the latest story that has graced my channel is the first episode of what is called the Nexus Chronicles. This is an animated adaptation of the novel by the same name that was also written by me. I am currently working on production of the second episode, as well as a spin-off of a series called Tales of the Nexus, which should be premiering soon. As for the second channel, you can actually locate it under the name of Cyber Psycho. Cyber Psycho is a channel where I'm just going to be a little bit more free-flowing in terms of content. We're going to be doing Let's Plays, video essays, AMVs, that kind of thing.
Awesome. How did you come up with your name?
Well, Dark Scholar is actually an interesting idea. So what had happened is that when I had first entered the creepypasta community, I noticed everyone had a cool name. CCG, Creepy Clown Girl, As the Raven Dreams, The Sleeping Wendigo. It goes on and on. Now, I needed to find something that fit me. I was always into the darker aspects of life. There was some sort of morbid fascination I had with learning the facts that other people would just go, wow, that's nuts. So what had happened is that it just seemed to flow naturally. So the name Dark Scholar just came to me. But the design for the original character, which you would actually see on my channel, it actually looks very similar to a crow. It kind of crow-like creature. And what had happened was that my roommate at the time, by the name of Liz, had a nightmare where she had seen that same creature. You can see it as the banner on my channel. And so she drew it after she had that nightmare. That's how she gets rid of her nightmares, she tells me. And I fell in love with its design. I'm like, I need this. That's what I said. And so that became my first avatar, and thus the Dark Scholar was born.
Wow, I like that.
As for my first videos that I started on my channel, if you actually look back on my first video, you'll notice that around the first 7 to 10 videos are consisting of lore on a series called Soul Sacrifice. Soul Sacrifice was a game that I absolutely adore, that is, in my opinion, severely underrated. It came out on the Vita, and I just love that it was this nice mixture between game and book, because the screen on the PS Vita is interactable. So as you're reading the lore, you can actually flip the pages physically by swiping your finger. And the narrator would read the stories to you, but some of the stories didn't have any narration, so I figured I might as well fill in the gap. And so that's where my first videos started coming in. Then I started writing original stories, starting with the I Am War, which is a kind of my take on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. If I had to come up with an origin story for what they would be that's outside of the typical theology, then that was what I came up with. And it was pretty fun. I liked that idea. And I just started writing more and more until eventually my first novel, The Nexus Chronicles, was made. And I was very proud of myself, but I kept thinking to myself, let's think bigger. How much bigger can this get? So I then started to work on the animated series, and I had the great pleasure and honor to work with some great names within the creepypasta community: Strawberry Nightmare, Mr. Black Pasta, Stephanie Swan Quills, the Dark Somnium, and of course the legend himself, Muji. You gotta
Oh,
love Mew. Yeah, he composed the Dark Somnium did the theme song for the intro, and Muji did the score for the remaining of the episode.
wow. That is awesome. Amazing talent there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
I
I'm
just,
very proud of how it came out.
as you should be.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your second channel and
Well, Cyber Psycho is a labor of love. You could say, while all my work is a labor of love, Cyber Psycho is more like a love letter to all things outside of my own personal works. You know, it was inspired. The name itself is a term that comes from a series called Cyberpunk, a very popular game right now. Some of you listening might be familiar with it, or the show on Netflix, Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I'm in love with both of them. And so I just felt the need to just make a love letter to that series. And so the first video I uploaded on Cyber Psycho last year was a AMV for Cyberpunk with the song "The Show Must Go On," and I'm very proud of how it came out. And I'm going to be working on more AMVs. We're going to be doing Let's Plays soon, and I'm going to just see where it goes from there.
well, I just subscribed. So there is a link in the chat for anybody that would like to check out the new channel. Please be sure to subscribe if this content is what you're looking for. Wendigo, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Dark Scholar, since starting your channel and where it is now, where do you see your channel going in the future?
I see both Dark Scholar and Cyber Psycho growing exponentially in the near future. But not only in terms of subscribers and viewership, I also see this channel becoming the launch pad for the franchise of the Nexus Chronicles. This is going to be the foundation from which everything else that I build comes from. When people ask where this all started, they're going to be pointing to an old YouTube channel, and people have a hard time believing that this wide, beautiful, majestic, incomprehensibly vast universe began on a free platform. And I honestly have to say that I cannot be happier with the idea, because I want to share my stories with as many people as possible. That is the long and short of my goal for this channel.
Awesome.
That is awesome. So when it comes to narrating or writing, what would you say are your strongest and weakest strengths and weaknesses?
That's an excellent question and a tough one to answer. Each story presents its own individual challenges, I would say, because every story set in the Nexus Chronicles is connected through an overarching narrative. But anyone who's familiar with the book will notice that I tell these stories out of order. For instance, you may enjoy one story that's set 400 years before modern times, and then the next story might be taking place 2,000 years in the future. And at first glance, it may appear that each of these stories are completely separate, like completely unrelated to each other. But that's intentional. The reason for that is that our own world is not locked in to one type of story. And I wanted my world to reflect that. You know, there are many people with many lives, and the actions that they take, even ones that took place centuries ago, could have consequences, ramifications, and influences that will touch characters that you'll fall in love with who never even met the original characters. And it's actually that idea that inspired the spin-off for Tales of the Nexus. As the Nexus Chronicles follows a more direct mainline story, even though it's out of order, Tales from the Nexus allows us to flesh out the background of the setting and the characters. And this idea was actually inspired, of all things, by my grandmother. She had, at the time, recently had a surgery on her knee. She fell down. Luckily, she was able to fully recover. She had a knee replacement. But as she's laying there in the bed telling me her story about her doctor, you know, almost on cue, her doctor walks into the room, and it occurred to me that every single one of us has a story. Even if we never meet each other again, that doesn't mean that your story stops, and neither does it mean that mine stops. You know, we're all just a bunch of characters walking on and off the stage of life, and I want my series to reflect that as well.
That is amazing. That's so awesome. Reflect away, please.
So, to answer your question, it's always different with each individual story. For instance, I'm writing a story for the second novel that's being written by the perspective of a pirate. So that presents its own challenges. Yeah, you gotta address the ship. You gotta address the time period in which they live, how people thought back then, how they dressed, how they acted, what kind of technology they held. And then, like, for the sci-fi story, it's the same thing. You gotta see like how these people would interact with not only each other but the environment around them. I want this to feel as much as a living, breathing world as possible. And here's the thing: the Nexus Chronicles, the series on YouTube, as I said, is only the foundation for what I intend to build. As the Nexus Chronicles is essentially the backstory for my ultimate end goal. The end goal is this: once I'm finished with the main series and do a bunch of my spin-offs, the comics, the novels, the shows, the movies, once all of that is covered, I intend to create a VR MMORPG set in this exact universe. I want people to step into my world to get a glimpse at what I see in my mind. And I want you to interact with the characters you've come to know and love throughout this series. That's what I want.
That is awesome.
That's awesome. Because I know I've listened to some of your content, and one thing that you can tell that something's done right, and you know, the reflections in a person's voice and how they deliver a story. When you can sit there and imagine yourself as a character or a part of the story, that's how you know that it, you know, it was done good and worth, you know, listening and enjoying.
Well,
and not too many people have that talent.
Well, thank you for saying so. I'm glad to hear it. I do my best.
Oh, you do great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. A link to the Dark Scholars channel is in the description. Be sure to check that out. I also shared the link to his second channel in the chat here. And hello, Josie, Patience, and Raven.
Good evening, everyone.
Where is our Derringer?
I don't know where our resident Derringer is.
I don't know either.
Usually he pops in about this time.
Right? He's like, not tonight. So weird.
He might come in later. Who knows?
Who knows? Of course.
So, I got a question for you, Mr. Scholar.
Ask away.
For new or upcoming narrators or writers, what is some strong advice you can offer to help them succeed?
Well, I would definitely recommend, for me, one thing that I definitely love. It may sound simple, but it really goes a long way. Find music that matches the tone you're trying to set for your story. Like that really helps me out. Like I will close my eyes and listen to whatever music it is that I need to listen to. I'm trying to absorb its energy. And that's what I really loved about Muse music. And that's why I wanted him on my series, because not only is he a big name, but he's a talented man who can just really nail the atmosphere that you're going for, as we all well know. And I want to make sure that each and every artist that wants to create something is aware that all art flows together, all of it. So if you want to reach a certain tone, you're going to want to more or less match the frequency that you're going for. If you're working in silence, you may find it a little bit harder to find the words that you're looking for. You know, I also recommend, of course, learning from the masters. You know, be sure to be willing to read stories from the greats. You know, I definitely recommend Mary Shelley's Frankenstein if you haven't actually read it. It's an amazing novel. It's a classic, and it will definitely help. You know, it's like improve your not only the structure of the writing itself, but it will also show you how Mary Shelley had gone about creating this horrific yet sympathetic tone to this story. Because if anyone is actually familiar with Frankenstein's monster, he's an extremely sympathetic character. He never asked to be born. He was created as a monster by a monster, because in all honesty, the true monster of that story is Dr. Victor Frankenstein. He made a son who he immediately abandoned.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know.
Nice dude.
Oh yeah.
There is our
Wow.
resident Derringer.
Another thing
Derringer.
hello there.
Oh, go on ahead.
Oh, another recommendation. You know, never be afraid to make mistakes. You know, you're gonna make mistakes. You know, almost every story I've ever written, I write it fully to completion. I look at it, I hate it, I delete 80% of it, then rewrite the rest of it, and it's perfect. So, you know, like, don't be afraid. You're not gonna get it perfect on the first try. You know, you're just not. Not unless you're Stephen King or something. I still don't know how that man writes like 50 books in 1 year. He's crazy or something.
Damn.
I don't know how he does it either.
It's crazy. I'm like, don't get me wrong though. I was like, you know, like Cell, but you know, still though, wrote novels. Like so many. I wish I could write novels that frequently. I remember George R. R.
me
Martin
too.
actually saying to his face, he's like, how do you write these so damn fast? Exact opposites, those two, in terms of how long it takes to write a novel.
Wow. Real quick before we continue, everyone please congratulate the Sleeping Wendigo who hit 100 subscribers. Well done and congratulations.
Congrats, man. Here's
Thank
hoping
you.
that you come up with even more. Let your year come with all the prosperity, all the views, and all the subs that you can gather.
Thank you.
Of course.
Raven and Derringer are talking. So you're also a huge gamer, I'm assuming. Scholar.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
I said you're also a huge gamer. Is that correct?
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. Don't you play games?
Oh, a huge gamer. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yes.
I love video games. I have been in love with them since I was a young boy. But one of my first games was Super Mario Bros. Classic. Never beat it. Never. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. I beat it as an adult when they remade it. Honestly, I'm glad I didn't beat it. I think I would have lost my mind if I had gone through all of that only to find out my princess was in another castle. I'm like, what kind of ending is that?
That
Yep.
sucks.
Yeah, that's how the first game ends. You go through all that, you beat Bowser, and then you just beat this, I forget what his Toad, and he's all like, oh, hey, sorry, Mario, the princess is in another castle. I'm like, well, okay, and that's it. That's the end. But most recently, as I grew older, of course, my taste in games began to evolve. Right now, I'm really into Elden Ring. I'm really enjoying. I've been replaying Red Dead Redemption 2 again, but I'm gonna say when I start my Let's Plays, I'm probably gonna start off with one of my favorite, grittiest, and darkest games ever put to market, and that is called Spec Ops: The Line. That is a fantastic game. It's amazing. It's dark and it's edgy, and I love it. One of my favorite lines in there is like, because the game will mock you as you go along. The game will mock you, and it's like, do you feel like a hero yet? Trust me, you won't feel like a hero.
One of two of my very first games was actually on PC back in the 80s, and that would be Venture and Pac-Man. And then, yes, then I moved to an Atari. My first game on that was Montezuma's Revenge, and then came Donkey Kong and all that. So I'm an old school gamer, like Legend of the Dragoon, PS1, Blood Omen. Legacy
I remember
of
the
Kain.
good old days of the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain. They were all.
Oh, I
great
never
games.
played that. I heard it was a magnificent game, though.
Oh, you should. You should really, because you can whack somebody with a sword and stand away from them and suck their blood. It's really cool.
That is pretty cool. You know what else I wanted to play? I never got the chance. Chrono Trigger. I want to play that game.
Never heard of it.
That's a funny thing about it. It's like it's heavily beloved by those who know about it, but most people don't know about it. It's a masterpiece of an old school 8-bit RPG that has to deal with time travel. And I've never seen a better use of time travel in any video game. It's crazy that the perfect time travel game was made back in the 80s. Like every single action you make will have ramifications. There are so many alternate timelines and consequences that when I was learning about this game, I'm like, this came out when? Like, and it's like one of those things. I'm like, man, I gotta step my game. I gotta that's what makes me want to work in video games. I want people to step into this interactive story, and I love the fact that technology is allowing us to get that. I'm a little bit jealous of the grandkids I don't have yet, though, because we got this big bulky VR set. I already am mad at the kids. They're gonna have glasses and gloves and suits, and they're gonna be all like, "You used to use your hands." I'm like, you little punk. We had to use cords on controllers, and we had to look at a TV. It's like, what's a TV? Get out.
Right? That's exactly how it's going to end up, too. You'll be like, a what?
God, they actually finally invented holograms, by the way. They're finally out. They're gonna start selling them soon. It's actually amazing how they made it work. It's a little ball of all things inside a container, and the container shoots light in all directions, and the little ball moves due to a frequency, and it moves so fast you can't actually see it. But because the ball is moving so fast, it's reflecting the light, and it creates a perfect 3D image of what you're trying to create.
Awesome.
Wow.
That actually sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
I want one.
Just don't open the box, because if you lose the ball, then it just becomes a gigantic, expensive paperweight.
Don't lose the what?
It's a little ball that allows the hologram to work. If you lose the ball, it's useless.
Yeah.
Aww. Cool.
Yeah.
some of the first games that I started off with was Quake 3, Halo 2. Believe the very first Pokemon I got my hands on was Pokemon Silver. And I remember playing, I think it was the original Sonic and a couple other games. This was like early 2000s for me. So I don't remember exactly which ones I started off with. Fun times.
Right? Oh, like Donkey Kong Countries, all that.
You know, one of my first creepypastas actually was a Pokemon creepypasta. You might even be familiar with it. It's called Come Follow Me. And it was about Pokemon Red and Green in Japan. It was like some kind of haunted copy of the game. Honestly, one of the creepiest freaking stories I'd ever heard in my life. I hated it because of how convincing it was. I'm like, this is ridiculous how detailed this is. I'm scared that I might actually come across this copy of this game.
Huh.
I loved it. And that's what got me into creepypastas.
Another creepypasta that I can remember revolving games is Ben Drown. Ben Drown, I think is what it's called. Which is like a Zelda creepypasta. I thought it was very interesting.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah. Without the creepypasta community, I probably never would have started writing, to be honest with you. The creepypasta community is what inspired me to write. Mew, the real big reason I was so happy to work with him is because I wrote my first stories in his comments section. You can actually find the first story in the comments section of what was it called? It was I have it here. It's one of my Mew. Oh, what was it called? Hunt or something like that? There we go. The end is always near. There it is. So that, and you might even find some videos of the narration of that same story. I won't. I'll let you figure out which comment is mine because it's actually under my real name. But trust me, you won't miss it if you find it. You'll know which one it is.
Well, being that I know what your real name is, so shouldn't be too hard for me. But I'm not
giving over 1,200 likes on that. That was the response to that short creepypasta I wrote in the comments section of that video. Is what inspired me because people would just love that short little creepypasta so much. I just wanted to write a short little story that would just last just as long as the song did, the full 3 minutes, and like really nail. Now here's the thing though. The thing that's ironic and dark is that it's a story about a plague. Now I wrote this 7 years ago. Now people are commenting down there saying this man predicted COVID. I'm like,
Oh shoot.
I'm like, in hindsight, I was like,
You've been pegged. Oh.
There was a creepypasta I wrote, and I immediately was like, should I let anyone narrate it? Because I was writing it at the same time as COVID was around. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure people would have figured out representatives between COVID and this, but the story is called The Government Experiment.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was there for that. Well, with all your stories that you've narrated, either, on your channel, do you have one on your channel that's your favorite? And of the narrators in the horror community, is there one that you've heard or a couple that you like?
Well, I'm a big fan of many creepypasta channels. Nature's Temper. Nature's Temper is great. I love that man's voice. He's excellent. You also, of course, got the Dark Somnium. Always quality work, excellent music, excellent stories. Always amazing. And of course we got you, CCG. I always enjoy listening to your work whenever I get the chance. The only thing that bums me out is that as I grew older, I just did not have the same amount of time as I used to. I used to go to sleep every night after school listening to creepypastas. Like, those were my lullabies. As morbid as that might sound. But, it's like, and here in the community, as I'm sure all of us know, there are amazing narrators. And sometimes, you drift apart, nothing bad, it's just sometimes it is what it is, And,
Right.
yeah, but what I like, though, is that gives me opportunities to meet new people in the community. The community is always growing. Always, always. And it seems here in the creepypasta community that a lot of us have this ability to come together to create something new. And I love that. That's what I love about this community. You know what I mean? It's not just a love for horror. This is a love for collaboration. We all want to make something new by bringing our talents together. And I think there's something about that attitude that is just very welcoming,
Exactly. Couldn't have said that any better. I've, had the privilege of collabing with some very amazing talent, and it has helped me grow as a person. So,
Speaking of collabs, Dark Scholar, who would be your dream collab?
Well, I kind of already did it. I wanted to work with Mew. I did not think he would respond to my email, to be perfectly honest with you. I completely expected to just be one of many that just got slipped through the crack. But I was like, you know what? It's like, I need him. I need this to be done right, because I'm still a small channel. I've got about, how many subs right now? 409 subscribers at this time.
congratulations on 400.
Well, thank you. I'm still a relatively small channel, so I have this philosophy of quality until I have both the quantity. So that way it will just be a standard that is just gold throughout, And it does take a while, though, when you decide to hold a standard that high, though, because, you kind of become a little bit of a perfectionist, And, of course, we got to work around each other's schedules. And then COVID hit. That was unfortunate because I was actually really hoping to take the Nexus Chronicles mainstream at the time. Right when COVID had hit, I was working on a comic, which is another spin-off of it. Now, this story is, I would call it a direct parallel to the main story of the Nexus Chronicles, but it's its own separate series. And I am happy to announce it here today. It is known as Alpha Omega. Now, in the Nexus Chronicles, there are heroes and there are villains. The story of Alpha Omega follows the man that will ultimately become the great evil of this saga. He and the hero by the name of Lucius Furious, who, if you would like to know what he looks like, simply look at my profile picture. These two men will clash, and when they do, it will shake the very stars themselves. This story will span thousands of years across several worlds, and the actions of these two men and the consequences of these actions and how it affects not only the world around them, but the people that they hold dear will be severe. And they will change the world many times over and many times again. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I actually passed away before I actually finished the series.
Aw.
Don't say that now. Don't say that now.
Yep.
I'm open
Right?
that. It's going to be long, though. Actually, I'm kind of low-key planning on writing some books and not publishing them and having them saved for when I do pass. Because here's the thing, I don't see the story ever actually ending. There is a beginning and an end, but here's the thing, remember, I always said I told the story out of order. So there's always room for me to just add more context, more color to the world, as it were. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is great. No. Do not. No. I did not do that.
What happened?
Sorry. Oh, my YouTube is being stupid. That's all. That's all. It's just somehow it kicked me over to not Mr. Nightmare. It kicked me over to a narrator's channel, and I'm like, huh? I didn't even touch you. So here I am. So I had to get back over here. I'm like, this is crazy. So, Scholar, do you believe in the paranormal, or do you know someone that had an experience?
Yes and yes. I absolutely do believe in the paranormal, and I know somebody had an experience, and that one is me. I've actually had many experiences. Now, one that really pops in my head was back when I was working in high school. Back in high school, my first job was at a racetrack. Best first job a teenage boy can ask for. Fast cars, good food, loud music. Amazing. I can still smell the fuel in the air. But the only problem with that job is how long the shifts were. 12 hours, you're dealing with hundreds of people in a line stretching out over a mile. Now, you will be tired, but it's okay because you got delicious food. You get like free sodas and free tacos. It's amazing. Anyhow, so, and by the way, those tacos at that racetrack were to die for. Divine. They melted in your mouth. Delicious. That's beside the point, though. What had happened is that I get home dead tired after a double shift. That's 24 hours, basically, of that I work. Worth it, though. Good money. What had happened, though, is that I just fall flat on my bed in the dead of night. It's black, inky black. And then I just hear in the corner of the room, so low you can barely hear it. And it says my name. Now, I'm not going to say my real name, but I'm just going to go, Dark. And the first words out of my mouth were, shut up. I was like, you shut up. I have had a long day at work. I swear to God, if you bother me, I will get a priest. Do not play with me. I will get the holy water. I will banish you tonight. Never was bothered. They knew I was serious. I'm actually very religious, so I have the faith to banish a demon. I know that. I ain't no afraid of no demon. I'm ready to throw hands with Satan himself. Like, what's up? You know? But I've also seen many crazy things. I think supernatural goes beyond just the spiritual. You know, it is in fact supernatural. You know, that's just like things that appear like it's just beyond reality. You know, and another example of this is when I was again working at this racetrack, and I was with my father, and he saw it, and so did many of the other customers too. I got eyewitnesses. I'm working. And it's around evening, you know, the sun's starting to set. It's gorgeous because the racetrack is right out in the sticks, you know, you just got nothing but grasslands. So the sunset is going on. The sky is got that beautiful blood orange color to it. But as I'm admiring this sunset, I see that the light above the sun, there's this weird band of light just right above the sun. You're like, what the heck? Like a halo or something. And I'm like, well, whatever. It's probably just, you know, maybe like a cloud reflecting the light or whatever. Like, whatever. It don't matter. But then it started getting bigger. And it started getting closer. And closer. And it got huge. And I had to point. I was like, Dad, look at that. And he's like, what is that? I'm like, you know what that is. That's a UFO, Dad. I know what I know what a plane looks like. I know what light reflecting clouds looks like. That is not what that is. And I started showing it to all the customers. Like, you see that, right? I'm not crazy. And he's like, no, yeah, I see. What is that? And stuff keeps getting closer. It keeps getting closer until it's practically right over us, and then it disappeared, like it was never there. And I was just like, I'm like, oh hell no! Oh no! Oh man, it's probably the only reason no one got taken is because there was a large crowd of people. They were looking for some poor sap out there in the grass where no one would notice in case stolen or something. Oh my god!
All you see is a taco laying on the stand.
Yeah, that would
Anybody
actually
seen
hilarious.
my
Alien
son?
just sitting there on the stands eating a taco. He's like, "Hey man, your Earth's food is delicious. I don't know what to tell you." Honestly, I can see that happening. And like, I wouldn't mind visiting some alien worlds just in disguise. Trying their food. If it wouldn't poison me, of course.
I mean, we got food here that probably would poison. I mean, hell, some of the food we got will poison ourselves. I'm sure it'd poison some alien if they ever come down here. Hell, let's feed them. Let's feed them. Let's feed them fugu and see what happens.
Give them wasabi. Watch them freak out. They won't know what's going on. It's funny you bring that up though. There's this. You might have you ever heard of like this funny little subreddit called "Humans Are Space Orcs"? You ever heard that?
No.
It's pretty interesting. It goes with this concept because you know how humans are almost always like depicted as like being like the underdog whenever aliens show up, like almost every time. Well, Humans Are Space Orcs addresses the idea that maybe that's not going to be the case. Because here's the thing. We are the dominant species on our planet, and human beings are actually pretty amazing when you realize it. We just don't recognize that fact very often because, well, we see people every day and we're a person too, and we're just normal. That's how we see everything. But one of my favorite things is that like an alien actually comes to visit Earth and we feed him our food. And at one point, they're like, what is that? And we introduced them to hot sauce. They're like, that's poison. You eat poison for fun? And you're like, yeah, we like the pain. What are you talking about? They're like that race is psychotic.
Poor alien. If you see a red or green substance, do not eat it.
Good times. I actually want to move to Colorado one of these days. I'm still living in South Texas at this time. Although I have been toying around with moving to South Padre Island. Beachside house would actually be pretty nice. Imagine like riding right next to a sunset. Beautiful, gorgeous. That might end up happening soon. God willing, you might see some pictures on my Instagram with me at the sunset at the beach. I'd be like, yeah, I made it.
I'd be like, I'm so jelly. I'd be so jealous. Tired of living in a concrete jungle. Oh, hello to Silver Underworld.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Silver Underworld.
It's funny you say that. I've visited a few cities in my time, and the most beautiful one I've seen so far was Chicago. I haven't been there since I was 12, though, but wow, man, it was gorgeous. And the best pizza on the planet, hands down. I don't care. You could call it a casserole if you want. It's delicious. Chicago deep dish pizza is otherworldly. It's like if you actually get it from Chicago, it is thick. I swear it is so thick. Oh my god. And for some reason though, it's inside out. I still don't figure that out to this day. Like the sauce is on the top, and then it's the cheese, and then it's the meat. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't care. It's amazing.
It's what?
It's amazing. My grandmother, whenever she visits Chicago, she always freezes me a slice and brings it back down. And I love her for that.
What do you mean
she's
it's
from
upside
Chicago.
down? Is she? It's upside down?
It's inside out. It's made inside out. It's like you got the crust, then they put the meat, and then the cheese, and then the sauce. The sauce is on top.
That would make more sense because it would hold everything together.
You know what? That's an excellent point. It doesn't fall apart that way.
Right, and they call it pizza pie, you know, because there you almost need a fork and a knife to eat it.
You know what? I once heard these guys arguing over what was the best pie, and this one guy goes, you know, hey man, I like cheesecake. He's like, that's not pie, man. There's literally cake in the title. He's like, hey man, it's got a crust, and you eat it in slices. I don't know what to tell you.
With 2.
I was getting that pizza extra thick, Silver. Aku meme.
Never had pizza from Chicago.
Me neither. Would love to.
You got to. At least once in your life, you must.
Well, if I knew somebody in Chicago, but unfortunately I don't.
I mean, you can visit one day. You know, it'd be worth it. It really, the pizza alone is worth the trip. Honest to God, it really is. You won't believe me until you try. Oh, by the way, speaking of something that's worth it, this is completely off topic, you guys. But since this is a rare opportunity to let everyone know, and this isn't a sponsor. Johnny Depp does not know me, but if you want to watch a movie that you have never seen before, if you haven't already seen it, look up Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That movie is nuts. Now, here's the thing, though. I need to let you know. If at any point while watching this movie you feel like it's too much, do not be afraid to back out, because that movie is crazy. And you will ask yourself at some point, can this get any crazier? And the answer is yes. 100% yes, it can.
Yeah, one rule of thumb is you never ask, can it get any worse or crazier? Because the moment you ask that, it's probably going to get worse or crazier.
Yeah, and that movie's insane. And here's the thing that's crazy about that movie is that apparently Johnny Depp plays this journalist that goes on these adventures with his lawyer. That's the cleanest way I can describe it. The rest of it, I will let you watch on your own. Now, the real crazy thing is that apparently all of this is a true story. And that's the bit that will weird you out, because not only is this movie a trip, and it is, you will be like, how is this guy real? And it makes you wonder, are there people out there like that right now? And then you'll ask yourself, well, I asked myself, I don't know about the rest of you, but I asked myself, I was like, would I go that far? No. But I probably would have gone up to about halfway of the movie with them, and then I would have backed out, but all right, you guys are nuts. I'm going home. Like, I can hang pretty far for a long time, but those guys were nuts. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Good times, though. It really makes the movies like The Hangover, Wolf of Wall Street, you're excused, and all that other stuff seem tame, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's nuts.
Is Wall Street ever tame?
No, but that's the point, though. Like, if this movie makes the Wolf of Wall Street seem tame, that should tell you something. If you've seen the Wolf of Wall Street, you know that guy partied hard. This guy makes him look like a child.
Hangover.
Yeah, this completely blows Hangover out of the water. Honestly, I wouldn't be like, I bet Hangover was low-key inspired by Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That you're like, I bet at some point in the meeting room they're like, hey, you remember that movie? Yeah, that movie was insane. He's like, we should make a movie low-key of what happened the morning after that. I was like, oh yeah, what should we call it? The Hangover. There you go. That's probably what happened. I wouldn't be surprised, because this movie, you got to watch it. You're like, what? Like, I was pinching myself throughout that movie. I'm like, am I dreaming? Am I tripping right now? Is this real? Is this a real movie? Oh man.
Silver says in St. Louis, we put the worst cheese on our pizza. I'm so sorry.
That sucks.
Yeah,
Sorry to hear.
Yeah, it does.
He says it literally crawled into his Lambo. Oh, he's talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah, that's true. I love that scene. That's hilarious. Yeah, like this guy gets more messed up than Leo was in that moment. Honestly, where Leo was crawling into his Lambo in Wolf of Wall Street, that guy reached that stage at maybe minute 20 of the movie, of the 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy went far.
And it gets worse from there.
Oh yes, it gets nuts, my guy. It is. You're like, what? You're like, what?
At this point, I'm gonna have to look it up and try to watch it because now it's just like,
Absolutely, I recommend it to everybody. You got to watch it at least once. You may love it, you may hate it, but I guarantee you will appreciate that you watched it at least once because you won't believe this movie exists until you see it. Like, you won't believe me until you see it. You're gonna be like, I thought he was over exaggerating. No, he was going easy on me because he was being safe for work in public television.
That bad, huh?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. There were some moments that straight up shocked me, you know, like 2 moments specifically, you know, and I was like, whoa. But other than that, you know, the rest of the movie is just a good old time, you know. But yeah. It's like, oh, but if that movie's too intense for y'all, like, I get it, you know, because it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Again, back away from the movie if you ever feel it gets too crazy, because again, it will go to the limit. There's another movie I actually recommend watching for everybody, and this is for everybody, the kids included too, if 13 and up, you know, nothing younger than that. But 13 and up, I would recommend Everything Everywhere All at Once. That movie is very recent. It's amazing. It has to do with multiverse theory, you know, kind of like Doctor Strange, but in my opinion, infinitely better, like so much better. It's amazing. It's got the actress from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now, but she also starred in Marco Polo. She's amazing, an amazing actress. She kills it in this movie. And her husband is the guy. He was the kid that was in Goonies. You know, the one with all the gadgets. Data? Yeah, it's like Data's actor came back just for this movie, and he kills it. Okay, look, I'll tell you how the movie starts, you know, and this should tell you whether or not you'll like it. His wife and them, they own a laundromat, and the wife's the main character. She's going about her day. They're about to pay their taxes with the IRS and all this stuff, just trying to get everything sorted through. And they're in an elevator, and all of a sudden her husband just freezes, and then he just goes over to her. He's like, listen to me. I'm not your husband. I'm a different version of your husband from an alternate universe. He starts writing things down. There's no time to explain. Here, take this note. And she's like, what?
Wow.
What is happening? And it just starts to get crazy from there.
That is like, hey, that's like, what happened now?
Exactly.
It went from 0 to 11 real freaking quick.
Oh yeah, and then it's gonna go from 11 to 100 even faster. You're gonna be like, what? But honestly, not only is it an amazing watch for the visuals, the action, the comedy, but it's gotten a very important message that I think everyone should watch. Once you watch this movie, you'll get what I'm saying. And this is the movie I genuinely believe that if you wanted a last-ditch effort to try to build a bridge with somebody that may have been burned a long time ago, this would be the movie to watch with.
Wow.
Yeah.
According to Silver, the main character is 60 years old and she fights.
Oh yeah, and she still looks amazing. Oh my goodness, man. Honestly, I hope I look even half as good when I'm that age. You know, the equivalent, you know, the guy equivalent anyway.
You mean
who
him?
aged really well? I can't remember his name. That guy from the movie Pretty Woman. You remember?
Yeah.
That man aged well. He was handsome to the day he died. Lucky punk. He never looked bad, not once in his life. That man never missed. He just woke up like this.
I'm sure he probably looked somewhat odd in the teenage years. That's like the worst things ever.
Yeah, probably.
So,
For
By the way,
Scholar,
fun. Oh, go on. Sorry.
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna go off on a little tangent. Before we
Okay.
started the interview, everybody, we were talking about this series I recently got into. It was called Warhammer. Now, funny thing, since you brought up odd teenage phases and all that, you might be familiar with Henry Cavill, aka Superman, aka Geralt from the Witcher Netflix series. Henry Cavill, for those of you who don't know this, is a massive nerd. And he's really into Warhammer too. Now, I did not know this for years. Nobody knew this. And he's super into Warhammer, and he just recently made a deal with Amazon to actually start adapting Warhammer. So those pictures I showed you all in Grave Matters, get ready to start seeing those stories brought to life. I'm actually really hoping that Henry Cavill plays Sanguinius, that angel character I showed you, because he'd be perfect for him. Henry Cavill was a very awkward guy. He was the fat kid in his family, and now look at him. And he's super into Warhammer. I just love that. Also, I find it so surprising that such a nice guy like Henry Cavill enjoys the grim darkness of the far future the way I do. That's crazy to me.
Silver says Superman is a gamer. He said he chooses FPS over 4K.
That's a real gamer right there. That's real.
Wow. Excuse me.
Yeah, he almost lost his job for Superman because he was playing a raid at WoW. That's World of Warcraft. He has his priorities straight. That's real. When the squad needs you, you do not turn away.
No one left behind.
Also, because like it takes like a lot. I don't really play MMOs that often. I have one MMO in my library, and that's because it's a VR MMO. It's called Zenith. I highly recommend it. Honestly, you're gonna start seeing me in there more often when Cyber Psycho and the Stark Scholars content starts coming up more often, because I want to be able to interact with my fan base. And VR chat is kind of going through difficulties right now. Also, through Zenith, we can go on quests together and all that. You know, go kill some monsters, level up, do stuff like that. But as time goes on, I do actually intend to not only create a model, you know, so that way I might interact with my community through VR chat. I also intend to have a kind of world built, you know, a little world, a nice little preview of what my VR game might look like in the future. Probably like a setting from the book, you know, brought to life. And that will be my hub area in the future. That's for main interactivity with the fans.
That'd be so cool.
Right?
That would
I
be
recommend
awesome.
a VR headset to anybody. You know, go get a Quest 2. You could make it in payments the way I did it off Amazon. I wasn't going to pay for that thing in full. You kidding me?
This might sound weird, but I'm not new to virtual reality. I'm new to virtual reality and any of that. But do you need 2 functioning eyeballs for it?
Not necessarily. Not really. You actually got a lens for each eye. Now any problems you might have with depth perception, that's all on you.
I only have one working eye and do not have depth perception, so that's why I am asking.
I would recommend the shooting games then, you know, because you know, the physical games like Blade and Sorcery, where you're swinging swords around, might be more difficult. But hey, you know, if you can find a way around it, I highly recommend it. It's a great game. It's awesome, super fun. You know. By the way, if it's all right to ask, do you have an eye patch? Because I would totally go with an eye patch. Honestly,
no, I do not have an eye patch.
Gotcha. I was actually stabbed in my left eye with a pencil as a child. I've known some psycho kids. I still got the gray mark on my eye to this day. It's lucky it's a good thing they don't actually put lead in pencils. That's a myth. Otherwise, my eye probably would have gone blind, honestly.
I was about to ask, did you lose vision in that eye at all?
No, I'm good. Well, actually, maybe. It does seem like this eye sees colors a bit darker, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
And oh man, because see, the eye itself doesn't feel. It's when you start losing pressure or getting too much pressure. Yeah, you pretty much want to go bang your head into a wall.
Oh yeah.
Yep,
Wow.
let me tell you. Let's see. So, Scholar,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are having a dinner, and you're going to invite 4 people in the horror genre or our horror community, dead or alive. Who would they be? Why? And what would you serve them?
If I had to what?
You're having a dinner party, and you're going to invite 4 people, either from the horror community or the whole genre. And who would they be? What are you going to serve them? And why did you choose them?
I mean, that's tough. That's tough. There were some big names in the horror community I very much admired back in the day. There were some controversies that ended up happening. I don't know how true any of it is, but if it is, that would definitely affect the list. But I gotta say, someone who would definitely still invited has gotta be Mr. Black Pasta. You know, he does great work. He was there. We were working together from the beginning back in the day. I very much respect his work, and I appreciate his assistance with my own. Muji is definitely coming as well. Have nothing but respect for that man and infinite gratitude for the score he wrote for me. And he's expressed nothing but interest and enthusiasm with the idea of scoring the second episode. I'll probably, hopefully, have him as a regular attendee for my projects in the future. I can honestly see the friends I've made along the way in the creepypasta community being my team in the future when I create an actual studio. There's a lot of work that will be needed to get this taken care of, but I know for a fact that we can get it done. We all have our talents here, and we're all enthusiastic, and for the most part, we're all hungry. And I like that.
That's 2. You got 3 more.
Well, obviously, it goes without saying, you would be there as well, CCG.
Awesome. Thank you. Love to be there.
Now, we have to bring in the food. I've always been one for small groups. Now, that being said, though, I've always really loved the creepypasta community. So really, if you know me by name, if we met each other and we're already friends on Discord, you're invited. That goes for you, Josie Kitty, of course, and everyone within my server. You know, all of my friends in the community are invited. Now, as for food, this is where things get tough. I could do individual dishes per person, but I don't know everyone's palate. That's tough. It's tough. For instance, I'm pretty sure somebody in the creepypasta community is a vegetarian. I don't know why, but they might be. So what would I do? I love red meat. I love pork. I love chicken. I don't want to offend nobody. See, I'm already going all deep into it in this hypothetical. But, you know, that's kind of what I do. You know, I start writing and I just start painting a picture. But I suppose if in a perfect world we can all just enjoy food, I would go with tacos. As tacos are the perfect food, and I will explain to you why. You see, in every culture, their potato salad. I mean, I don't hate potato salad. You can actually have potato salad alongside your tacos. Down here in South Texas, we barbecue on a regular. So you can have fajita tacos alongside a potato salad and some rice and beans if that's what we want to do. And it's delicious. Mexican food is always delicious. It might not be healthy, but it's delicious. Anyhow, now, as for the reason why the taco is the perfect food, it's because you can put anything in the taco. Now, every culture since the dawn of time has tried creating the perfect food using the exact same ingredients. They use grain, they use vegetables, they use cheese, and they use meat. That's how you got pizza. That's how you got sushi. That's how you got sandwiches. But the taco is the epitome of all this, and I'll tell you why. Because the tortilla is thick enough that even if you have wet food, it will not soak through like with a sandwich. And if the taco dries out, it will not be tough as all living heck like a pizza. And you can literally put anything in there. Fish tacos, beef tacos, chicken tacos, anything in between. I once saw a show called iCarly Makes Spaghetti Tacos. Granted, it looked ridiculous, but still, though, you can do it.
Huh. Gross, but interesting.
Well,
Yep.
hell,
I don't know why you would do that. That's heavy in starch.
Well, hell, I got an idea for making bison tacos then.
Ooh.
Everyone, to Wendigo's house we go.
Mm-hmm. I've only had bison once. Can you make that meat tender? I don't know if it's possible.
You know what? Yes, you can. I buy it from my local Walmart. It's about $10 per pound, and it's actually pretty tender. It's really good too.
Oh, nice. Oh, interesting.
I get it whenever I can, and then I just cook either regular burgers with it. I might make tacos one of these days with it now. And I also plan on making hamburger helper with it to see how that tastes.
Absolutely. If I ever leave Texas, I'm definitely taking my local HEB tortillas with me. Yeah, HEB makes some great tortillas because one of the things is that when you start leaving the South, they start coming pre-cooked in their packaging, and it's never the way it's supposed to be. You want to get one of those tortillas that are raw. The reason for that is they come in raw. When you take it off, it's flat. And you could cook it on the grill or something, and it'll cook and it'll be perfect. It'll be this nice buttery blend that just holds everything together just right.
Oh. When are you sending me some? Serious? We'll talk after the show.
Oh, I wish I could, but the food would spoil before then. What could happen though is that I would love for our community to maybe one day meet up, because a lot of creepypasta narrators live in Texas for some reason. A lot of us. It's really funny. So I'm thinking maybe during.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, what I was thinking is that maybe during one of our horror conventions down here in Texas one of these days, we can all as a community come together for one big day. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, I haven't been back to my home state since 1979. Real quick, hello to Derek Weber. Also, Raven, I'm with you, man. I love potato salad sandwiches. I like cold bean sandwiches. Yeah, yum.
My favorite sandwich, if I ever go to a sandwich place, this is how I have my sandwich made. I get wheat bread, and what I'll do is I'll get rotisserie chicken, pepper jack cheese, onions, jalapeno, spinach. Then you throw in some salt and pepper, some oregano, and then you toast that sucker. Oh, I almost forgot. After you're done with that, you put one spread of either avocado or guacamole, and you have a perfect sandwich. Healthy, delicious, with a hint of spice.
Oh, I need that recipe, please. Thanks.
Man, I'm hungry now.
Me too. It's where's dinner? That would be good.
The other night, I made my chicken recipe, and everyone here at my house said they loved it. And the main ingredient I use for all the seasonings, one of them that you wouldn't think would work, but it works really well, is brown sugar. And I'm not even joking. For some reason, with brown sugar and paprika and onion and garlic powder and a few other spices, oregano, it makes it taste a lot better. I don't know what it is.
Well, I don't. Maybe it could work. I'll tell you what. I haven't done it in a while, but back in the day, I would add a pinch, the smallest pinch of sugar to my spaghetti, and I make a mean bowl of spaghetti.
So do I.
Like I love spaghetti. Like if I get the time to actually like if I have to make it quickly, it's ground beef and the sauce. You know, I of course use garlic, onions, tomatoes, all that stuff. But if I have time, I will order pork. I will get spicy sausage, and I will get lean ground beef. I will make homemade meatballs, and I will cook them suckers. And then I'm gonna add the sauce and all that stuff, and then of course I got the noodles and all that. Now, if you actually want the noodles to be healthier, what you can do is actually let them soak overnight, and the noodles will naturally be soft. Then you can heat the noodles in the water, and they'll actually allow you to more or less prepare the food within a quicker amount of time. You know, from when you start cooking everything, because the noodles will already be soft. Oh yeah, it'll hold in most of the nutrients. You ever notice that the water gets blurry after you boil? That's because most of the nutrients are being boiled out of the noodles.
Wow. See, I use angel hair pasta for my spaghetti.
I use myself.
I prefer the angel hair. And what I do is, you forgot to try this. I let the meat cook with onion, and then I'll take a can of Rotel, diced tomatoes and green chilies, drain it, put it in there, some sliced black olives, some mushrooms, garlic, or you get the point. And I put cilantro in it. And
interesting.
It is
like a
so
salsa
good.
spaghetti mix, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Mexican spaghetti, and it is so good.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. Mexican spaghetti is a thing, but it's green.
Mine's red.
I
will have to get
know
the
how
green.
Mexican spaghetti is actually made. I gotta look that up. I had it one time. It was delicious.
I'm gonna have to try that. Mm-hmm. Well, we got time for one more question, and then we're gonna end the show. But our final question is, Scholar, you've been a bad boy. So it could be funny, serious, whatever. What crime did you commit to get on death row? What would your last meal be, and what would your method of execution be?
Well, I'm not going to tell you specifically how I did it, just in case if the world actually pisses me off and I actually feel like going through with it. But I would have been put on execution simply because I had ended modern civilization. Yes, I can do that. Don't ask me how. You don't want to, because then I'd have to kill you. Anyways, yeah, I mean, if by some miracle y'all even managed to catch me, that would be why, As for my method of execution, shoot, if I get to choose it, it's going to be a fight to the death. Like, I'm going to go out like a man with a sword in my hand. And I want to fight somebody who's actually going to be a challenge. Don't give me no regular Joe. You give me the best one you got. You're going to need him. I actually do practice with a sword on a daily. I got a training sword right here. This is 3 pounds.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Cece, don't we know someone that literally makes medieval armor and weaponry?
Yes, that would be Crazy Ken's story time.
We can get him to do it.
Yeah, I think
actual armor. I dressed up as a king this past Halloween.
Talk to Crazy Ken story time. He also reenacts, and he's an instructor, and he does make medieval armor and stuff. So look him up. He's in my server. So yeah.
I think I'll do that. Good pit. I like that.
Yep.
Thank you.
He's a really cool dude. Also, he really is.
Nice.
Well, it's about that time. So, Scholar, we're going to go ahead and let you say some final words. Then Wendigo, and then I'll go ahead and close the show. Okay, go ahead, Scholar.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so very much for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with all of you here today. And I hope everyone watching from home enjoyed our little soiree. And I hope that each and every single one of you have yourselves a fantastic morning, day, night, and a happy new year. Take care of yourselves, chase your dreams, shoot for the stars, and stop for nothing.
Awesome advice. Love that. Wendigo?
I would like to thank everyone in the chat. Thank you all for joining us today. Scholar, thank you for being on the show. It is really nice to meet you, and it was really fun to have you on the show. We really need you have you on here again. And thank you to Cece and Raven. And thank you to everyone who had watched.
Awesome.
Good night, everybody.
Again, thank you, the man behind the yellow line, because without you, Grave Matters wouldn't exist, as the Raven Dreams, and his lovely wife, Patience, for letting us borrow him every week. Thank you to everyone in the chat who showed up. Wendigo, thank you for being here again with me. Dark Scholar, always amazing catching up with you. The interview, really enjoyed having you. Definitely got to have you back. Join us next week when we bring back to Grave Matters 4-Shot Pasta Bot. And then on February 2nd, be sure to join us as we welcome Seraphine, the Midnight Bard, and Derringer to Grave Matters. So until then, stay frightened, and if you do listen, the graves always whisper, and once you join the collective, you can leave nevermore. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.